Okay, so what we're going to do today is talk about advertising, and I'm going to show you a video. The first video I have is really a parody on how successful would a restaurant be if they acted like a hospital. And so I'm going to share a screen about that with y'all first. But someone texted me or emailed me last night and wanted to make an announcement this morning about ASI or something. Was that person in this class?
Hi, yes, Professor, that was me.
Okay, go ahead, Alejandra.
Hi, everyone. I am the president of the College and Health and Human Services Student Council, and we are currently holding our board applications for next year. So what we do is we are basically like a liaison between the faculty from CHHS and the students. So our organization is made up of us as the board, and then we have representatives from all the clubs in the College of Health and Human Services. Like for us, it's the Student Forum and UPD. Then we have like the National Speech Language Pathology Association and Students in Fashion. And there's like about 15 orgs that are active. And what we do is just trying to engage more students on campus to be active and show up to events and all of those things. And we also have like constant communication with Dean Lounsbury and the Associate Dean Tiffany Vargas. She is our faculty advisor. So we've come up with a few ideas with her, like how to have more mental health resources on campus. We've had presentations from Basic Needs and CalFresh on our meetings. We've also like the biggest thing that we've done this past semester was the allocation of the ASI Spring Grants, which are given to all the student councils on campus that are then distributed amongst the organizations that we are all part of. So I think it's like a really cool opportunity for all of us. There's Eric, he's actually our publicity coordinator, so you can ask us questions if you like, but yeah, the application is open until Thursday, and then we will do voting on that day during our meeting. It's on in USU room 303 at 5:30, and it's a really cool opportunity. We are administration majors, so we will probably take on leadership roles in our jobs once we graduate. So it's like a good place to gain some confidence and experience. So please, all positions are available. So if you're interested, I think it would be a really good opportunity. And I'll put it in the group chat as well, all this information. Thank you.
Super. Thank you for sharing. I think everybody should get active. It's kind of what makes your college experience so great here at Cal State because you have so many opportunities to get involved. It's really great. Thank you so much, Alejandra. Eric, did you have anything you wanted to add about anything?
Piggyback off of Alejandra, this is a really unique position in that it kind of forces you to be active. How she mentioned, so the College of Health and Human Services Student Council oversees all of the organizations in the College of Health and Human Services, obviously including our own and HCA, which is the HCASF and UPD. So you'll meet students in every single other org in the College of Health and Human Services. Right now it's 15. Last year it was 4, so it's a big growth. Hopefully it's 25 or 30 by next 23-24 academic year. So if you want to be active on campus, I highly recommend it.
Eric, when is the student forum meeting?
So for the student forum and UPD meeting, our next journal meeting is actually this Friday. It's with Dr. Jeremy Ramirez. If you guys don't know, that's with the HCA 416 and 490 professor, but he also has a ton of experience. It's going to be regarding his consulting work at one of the big 4 accounting firms, Deloitte. But he's also kind of like the champion of healthcare informatics on campus. So if that interests you, I highly recommend going as well. But I'll drop the link in the chat.
Super, thank you. And I will give extra credit for those of you who want to attend. I think it's an incredible opportunity if you haven't had the opportunity to have Dr. Ramirez for a class, and I think you will really enjoy it. I want to share a little tidbit with y'all. He was my student in 2014 here. So he is a undergraduate, a member of the graduating class of 2014, 15, something like that. So he is homegrown. He's one of our own. And he's also been going to be an assistant professor starting in August of this coming year. Okay, any other questions? Catch that link that is in here, I think that Eric put in. And Eric, is that the link for the meeting on Friday night?
Correct, yes.
Can you either email me to that also?
Yes.
Okay, super. Okay, any questions then? Are we doing good? Okay, this first video that I want to show you, it's a short little video, but it really, it's a parody. It's meant, but it really brings home a lot of what people go through when they go into a hospital or attempt to get treatment at a hospital. So hopefully I'll be able to find it. As y'all know, sometimes they hide from me. Let's see, it was here. Yeah, here it is. Okay, hang on.
How may I help you?
It's my wedding anniversary in 2 weeks.
Thank you for calling Le Clinique. How may I help you?
It's my wedding anniversary in 2 weeks, and I'd like to make a reservation for dinner.
Did you say 2 weeks? I'm afraid the only possibility would be in 6 months and 2 weeks.
Well, my wife really wants to eat at a 5-star restaurant, so I guess we'll take that. 8 o'clock?
It doesn't work that way, sir. You call us the night before, and we'll let you know when you can come in. Our chef decides whom he wants to serve when. C'est bien?
I guess so.
Bah, très bien, monsieur. See you then. It will be your privilege to dine with us.
Welcome to La Clinique.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I have a few questions for you. Are you allergic to peanuts?
No.
Nope.
Or to shellfish?
No.
Have you had any past reactions to bottled water?
No.
Okay, very good. Janice will see you in the next room.
Are either one of you allergic to peanuts or shellfish?
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, perfect. Louis here will take you to your table.
Welcome to La Clinique.
Thank you.
We're a model restaurant. I'm sure you know it's your privilege to dine with us.
No, honestly, he's my favorite.
Good evening. I understand that tonight is a very special event.
Yes.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Thanks.
As you can see, the special tonight is the sea bass. So if you're ready to order.
We are definitely ready. Honey?
I'd like the sea bass, thank you.
Excellent choice. It will take a while. Pierre is a very important chef, and he's on a consulting call with another very important chef. I'm sure you understand. Monsieur.
I will have the filet mignon.
Excellent.
And I noticed there are no prices on your menu.
Monsieur, we don't know the prices. We'll be bringing you the bills. Are either of you allergic to peanuts?
No.
Hello. We need you to put these on. It makes it so much easier for our servers. Here you go. Let me help you with this. Right over the top. If you'd like to leave your clothes on underneath, if you're more comfortable that way, that's fine. Enjoy your evening.
It's so nice to be alone.
Good evening. How will you be paying for dinner?
You want to talk about that right now?
What credit card will you be using?
American Express.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Enjoy your meal.
I love you.
I love you too.
Temperature time. Yep.
It's been an hour.
Almost 2. Oh, here he is.
Magazine? I have the 2006 People. Oh, or my favorite, the 2004 Highlights for Children.
No, thank you.
Oh, by the way, are you allergic to peanuts?
Here we are.
We were here a half hour before them, and they've already eaten.
Well, they were much hungrier than you. Enjoy. I'm just going to leave these here.
What are all these?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is from our bakery. They are specialists. This is from our meat supplier. This, the dishwashers and busboys are a separate company. They bill separately. And this is not a bill. All right.
This is not a bill?
Thanks for dining with us. Would you fill out a survey?
Okay, so can y'all see the kind of puts in perspective what hospitals do, right? Any comments on this? No?
I think they forgot to include like the waiting room times.
You're right.
Yeah.
You are so right. They should have had them sitting outside that door waiting. Good catch. Anybody else? But you know, as you look at it, I thought it was a really good putting in perspective exactly what goes on at a lot of hospitals. And it is a shame, but it is a statement, you know, of fact. Hopefully when all of y'all get out into the real world, y'all will be able to fix some of these issues. Okay, so what we're gonna talk about today is advertising. One of my favorite topics because there's so many ways to look at advertising. So let me pull up hang on one second, let me pull up the PowerPoint and okay, let's see. Okay, so this is, I think, one of the better chapters because, believe it or not, this is really important. Of course, I would think it's more important since you're in my marketing class, but when you get out and start working as a young executive, a lot of these tasks that the other people don't want to do will land in your lap. So you have to really have a good idea about what's important and what's going to work and, you know, how to go about it. So as we look at this, there's a little bit of a history of it in the textbook. And I think I've talked about this in some of the other chapters before, but in 1975, the FTC Federal Trade Commission applied antitrust laws to healthcare, opening it up to where you could actually have advertised because of the competitive pressures that were going on in the marketplace. And a lot of things led to that. Many years ago, before 1975, you could not advertise in healthcare. It was considered one of those, and I'm going to have quotes around my words, learned professions or learned professions, meaning that people like doctors, lawyers, any profession like that it was considered unethical to practice, to have any kind of advertisement, because they thought that the premise was that if you're good at what you do, the clients will come. And so if you have to advertise, it almost equated you to some type of charlatan, you know, someone that didn't really know what they were doing and had to use trickery to get people to come to them. So even the AMA had said that you cannot, that in 1847, in fact, the AMA said that it was derogatory to the dignity of the profession to advertise. So, you know, being 100 years old, I can remember when they didn't advertise. And I can remember the first billboard I saw that was advertising for a lawyer. And I thought, my goodness, he must be a real shyster, you know, that he has to go out there and try to reel in clients. But, you know, this person was just kind of a front runner on what was to come. In the old days, before 1975, clients or patients really didn't have a choice on what hospital they went to. And the reason for that is that their general practitioner had rights at certain hospitals. And so whatever their general practitioner went to, that's the hospital that they went to. They followed them. So consequently, even though the hospitals couldn't advertise to the general public, they did in fact go and try to reel in physicians. because that was the way that they got their clientele. And they would do things like give them these elaborate cruises, golf clubs. They had promised them their own parking space, great doctor's lounges, all these different things to entice them to come and practice at their hospital. Well, as you know, things have changed greatly now, and very few of your primary care doctors even practice at hospitals. You know, what happens is that they refer you, or you choose what hospital you'd like to go to, depending on the specialty, depending on where it's located, you know, whatever it happens to be. And then you're actually turned over to the care of the doctors who are on staff at that hospital. So things have changed drastically in the last 50 years. And the way that they used to give all kinds of things to doctors in order to entice them to come was ruled unethical. And so at some point, they said the only thing that these drug companies and hospitals and all these different people could do was to give things that could be passed on to patients, like prescription pads with their name advertising, or pencils or pens, or, you know, things, not elaborate trips around the world. So things have changed drastically now. Even though it happened in 1975, people didn't actually start applying it until the 80s, low 80s, because they really didn't have any guidelines to use. So hospitals and, you know, different medical facilities were much more leery about it, because it was a big change. It was a huge change from what they had gone through for many, many years. So now, as far as pharmaceutical products, they have never been under the same umbrella of it's unethical. And in fact, the first ads from a patent medicine company appeared in a Boston newspaper in 1708. And at that point, you could sell all kinds of drugs now that are extremely illegal, and they would advertise them. And if you research it on the web, you can see pictures of these ads with pictures of the bottle, you know, that they would just advertise for sell directly to the patient, until, you know, the Federal Food and Drug and whoever takes care of that rolled into the picture and said, "Yeah, man, you cannot be selling this stuff open market." But they can still advertise and do what they're really not covered under these same rules. Now, when you're looking at advertising, you're looking at basically two different kinds. You have a paid advertisement, which is distinguished from publicity. And if we have time, I've got a video to show you about that. And then you have non-personal, which is distinguished from personal selling. Now, the paid advertisement is when you actually pay to put it out there. You know, you put ads out there, you put ads on TV, you know, you pay somebody to advertise your service or your product. The non-personal is distinguished from personal selling in that it's not a personal person doing it. It's not one person doing it. You know, it's like it goes to everybody. It's not targeted on anyone in particular. So publicity, when we look at publicity can be, basically it's free. And I can give you an example of that. I used to teach at this junior high that was really, it had the most horrible reputation in the whole city. And no one could last there over a year as a teacher. Usually we had 66% turnover rate, because we were the way that this particular city met the standards of integrating was that every single 8th and 9th grader went to the same school in the city. So we had about 2,200 8th and 9th graders in this campus that was actually built for 1,100 students. So we literally had students hanging off the walls, the ceilings, everywhere, because we didn't have classroom space for them. And so people just couldn't survive there. If you lasted over a year, you were called a survivor. So I was there, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 years. And I loved it because I love that age group. But they were getting all kinds of bad bad publicity all the time. Our students were sneaking off and doing this and doing that, and, just really horrible publicity. So anytime I would do something that I thought the public would like to know about, I'd call the radio station, I'd call the TV station, I'd call everybody I could think of to get them to come out and give us some good publicity. That was free. Now, you have no control over, when they run it or if they run it. But what you do control is that you can get them out there and they'll do a piece on you. And if it does run, then you get some really great PR and it didn't cost anything. But again, you have no control over what they say and you have no control when it's going to run, but it's free. And it worked well. My students were under threat of, being beat with my paddle if they didn't behave. But because you also run the risk of something bad happening while they're there, because we did have, fights and things like that. You just had to kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best. But anyway, there is this distinction between, but publicity, which, is basically free unless you have a public relations person that puts those ads out there, but there's still no guarantee those ads are going to run. You have no control over it. Now, some of the common classifications, hang on one second. Some of the common classifications of advertising are like product advertising. You focus on a particular product or service, and there's 3 different ways to look at it. You have the competitive, which basically you're trying to generate demand for the organization's service over that of a competitor. So, you're trying to show what you're doing is better than what they're doing. You're trying to get your name out there so they'll think of you instead of them. So your advertising, your main goal of this advertising is to show your benefits, and over one of your competitors. The help-seeking ones are some of the ads like you see on TV, like we see, you cannot turn the TV on for over 10 minutes without seeing an ad for some pharmaceutical product. And, it shows people that are, have some sort of skin affliction, or they have, diabetes, or whatever it happens to be. And they'll talk about how this product is so great for that particular ailment. However, a few years back, the Food and Drug Administration said, listen, you cannot just say what's good about it. You have to also say the risks. So if you notice in all the ads you see on TV for any of these medications, they talk about all the great products, and they show people that go from not stepping one toe out in the sun, to being out there all the time, all these different things that gives a person hope. But at the end of the ad, they'll always say, do not take this product if you're allergic to it, could lead to cancer of the whatever, and it's got all these different risks that you have to take. And the reason they did this was because they said that the pharmaceutical companies were painting a untrue or unrealistic picture. And all these people were racing to their doctor's offices demanding this product without realizing that maybe they're not a good candidate for it. And then if the doctor wouldn't provide it, a lot of times they just go to another doctor that would. So FDA said that they must also give the risks as well as all the benefits. And then you have the reminder, which really, those ads just remind you, hey, we're still here. We still have this product. It's still a great product, whatever it happens to be. So you have, there's 3 basically product advertising or services, this is how you're basically looking at them. Now, when you look at institutional advertising, you're using it to build goodwill and to enhance your image about a particular organization. You can introduce or announce openings. A lot of times institutions will put, hey, come try out our new emergency room. It's completely updated. Or we've just now opened up our orthopedic division, or whatever it happens to be. So when an institution is advertising, They're trying to let people know what's out there. They're announcing any openings they may have. Lately, I've been seeing on TV that, you know, nurses, we're hiring nurses or whatever it happens to be. But that's more along the institutional advertising. It's not like talking about a particular illness or particular anything. It's just letting you know generally. And they also sometimes compare programs, which would be, you know, compare what they're offering with what some other institution is offering. The final one is to advocate a public policy position. Now, they have to be very careful, or you have to be very careful when taking a stand on anything when you're in a public institution. For instance, there was an example in the book that talked about one hospital that took a stand on anti-abortion, and you know, that they let them know that they had you know, lobbyists, you know, going to Congress about it, and you know, that this is where they stood. They, you know, that they were not going to perform, you know, abortions and or whatever it happened to be. So they took a chance and took a stand. Now, there was a case a few years ago, a number of years back. It was back east somewhere. It was a Catholic hospital, and they refused to do abortions, period, under any circumstances. Well, they were sued because this particular individual felt like she had a right to have an abortion, and they were there offering services to the public, and that they should, in fact, give her an abortion if she wanted one. But they were standing on the fact that it went against the basic principles of their hospital and of the people who were running their hospital. I don't know exactly what happened in that case, but it was very expensive for them to defend themselves in that case. So anytime you take a stand on a public policy, and there's many public policy positions that affect hospitals, you have to be very careful. You have to wonder, you know, how many people are going to come to you because of that, and how many people are you going to alienate because of that? So it has to be very well thought out before you take a public policy position. We doing okay? Any questions so far? Okay, so there's a lot of steps in developing an ad campaign. Unfortunately, you can't just say, well, I want to tell people about this, and you pitch something out there. You write something up quick and pitch it out there. It doesn't work that way. Advertising is very expensive. And typically, if you're going to launch an advertising campaign, you're going to have to get permission. We're going to have to get money. You know, you're going to have a solid plan on what you're going to do. So as you look at defining your target audience, you need to specify who is the group you're trying to reach. And this would include the demographics and the psychographics, you know, like where do these people live? You know, how do they think? What do they participate in? You know, if you're going to go after in your target group, individuals, young, healthy individuals, you want to reel them into your HMO because that's a win-win. It doesn't, typically, this group of individuals doesn't use a lot of health care, but they pay their money in, so the hospital is making money. So how would you go about, you know, targeting this group of individuals? Well, you know, you may sponsor booths at marathons. You know, there's all kinds of ways that you can go, but you have to have a plan on how are you going to communicate and zero in on this particular group of individuals. So then you're going to specify your objectives. Now, this is one thing that sometimes people don't realize, but in your mind, whether you are actually doing it consciously or not, you go through a series of steps before you purchase something or before you use something or before you even consider it. The first of those steps is awareness. You know, you have to, in this model is saying, you know what, if someone doesn't know about you, they can't use you. So I'm gonna, you know, I told y'all way back that I usually like to equate things to vehicles because I love trucks. I love vehicles, and it kind of brings it to home. So, and when you're looking at awareness, you know, let's say I'm driving from where I live to the campus, and I see this brand new dealership, and it's Porsches, you know. And I look at it and I glance and say, okay, I'm aware it's there, you know. On my same trip to campus, I see a brand new Ford dealership, and in the front is a brand new 4-wheel drive Ford 250, you know, with the dually back end wheels and like a really tough looking truck that you need a stepladder to get into, you know. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, wow, I really like that. So, I go on to work, I think about it, so I'm driving home from work and I'm looking at that Ford dealership again because it interests me. Maybe I'm not in the market right now for a vehicle, but I'm thinking, wow, I think I should want to stop and see what that truck feels like, So I'm interested. That's step 2. I go on down the road and I pass the Porsche and I just kind of shrug my shoulders and I say, oh, that's nice. And I keep rolling. Never think about it again. So what that tells you is that you can tell people about your hospital, about your facility, about whatever it happens to be. But if they're not interested, the buck stops there, So then after you've reeled them in, whatever portion you get, you've reeled them in, and now they're going to evaluate it. So they're going to look at it and they're going to, evaluate whether this really is something that they would be interested in. They'll take a closer look. They'll look around and see, well, let's see, is there another Ford dealership that has the same vehicle? What is their service record like? Would I want to buy it here? Whatever it happens to be. Well, in the case of an institution, I'm going to take something that people really have a lot of choice on. One of the biggest type of services that hospitals offer is for people having babies. So, people will evaluate. They don't just go to the first hospital they found. They evaluate, what does this hospital offer me when I'm in labor that other hospitals don't? And I can tell you from experience, when my daughter was having her kids in Tampa, I went with her to visit, 4 hospitals, and they all had different things to reel you in. It wasn't like, you just go in, you look at the room and okay, like one of them, at the night you deliver, they offer you a candlelit steak dinner for you and your husband or your significant other. And, in this very romantic setting, or as romantic as you can get in a hospital room. But because it was Tampa, it looked out over the bay. So it was really pretty, it was enticing. But then, another hospital that we looked at, while you were in labor, you had this beautiful room, although I'm not sure anybody would bother to look at it, but the theory was good, that you looked out over the bay, saw the sailing ships and, all the different things. But after you had the child, then you were moved to a different room, which wasn't quite as enticing. So you had to kind of weigh those possibilities. So you're looking at all these different hospitals and evaluating them. And then you decide on one, you say, I'm going to try this out. So I'd say, I really don't need a truck, but I just got to drive that Ford 250, and then the more jacked up it is, the better I like it. So, I climb up into it and I'm like, I am in love with this truck. Well, the same thing, with a hospital, if you decide to have your baby, let's say at the Tampa Bay hospital that was on the bay where you could watch the beautiful ships and sailboats and everything coming in, you decide that's what you want to have, because in theory you're thinking this is going to be easy, it's not going to be painful, I'm going to enjoy this, and and then boom, I'm going to have a baby. Okay, so you try it out. Well, if you like it and you have another child, then you go back to the same place, so you have adopted it. Same thing, if I like that truck, till I just think I can't live without it, then I will probably buy it. And if I love it when I buy it, I will go back and get another truck from the same place. So you go through all these steps, as far as the advertising objectives. So the main one that you have to think about is the awareness. People cannot come to you or purchase from you or do anything from you if they don't know you exist. So your advertising needs to zero in on the awareness, and then after you do that, then you have other ways to activate interest. But if they're not interested at all, you will never reel them in. So you don't want to spend a lot of money on people who really aren't interested. It would be like going to a nursing home to advertise your maternity care. You know, basically they won't be interested, we hope. Okay, then you have to, there's different ways of determining how much money that you're going to be allowed to spend on this, on your advertising. There's several ways that people do it. The first one is the percentage of the sales. And this implies that the sales are causing the advertising. And that's just not the case. You know, sales don't cause advertising. It's really advertising creates sales. So if you do a percentage of the sales, then if the sales go down, advertising budget goes down. And does that even make any kind of sense at all? I know I can't see y'all, but I know that anyone, even that's had just a little bit of marketing, knows that makes no sense at all, because if you have less money to advertise, clearly you're going to get to less people. So that's not a real good way to determine your budget. But a lot of times people use that way because that's where they have, you know, the extra money. And then the next way is by your competitive parity. And all that is it's saying, how much is my competition spending? And I need to spend as much as them because I need to stay toe to toe with them. And basically, this is weak also, because they could be trying to reach another market, or they could not know what they're doing either. You know, so they may be spending a lot of money and reaping no benefits from it. And you would fall into the same trap of spending a lot of money and not really knowing why you're spending it, or, you know, falling into the same trap of, you know, not reaping any of the benefits for all this money. It's like throwing good money after bad. And then the next one is all that you can afford. This principle is, well, what's left over we'll put towards advertising. This doesn't make sense either. Even though it's fiscally sound, it doesn't make sense, because if you don't have any money left over and you just use a little bit, sales aren't going to improve the next year either, or services, or whatever it happens to be. So it's, you know, it's not a good thing. And if you have a lot of money and you don't know how to spend it and you just throw it at somebody, you know, you maybe buy a bunch of really nice Yeti cups to give away or something, you know, that don't really do anything for you, just kind of waste money. So that's not a good principle either. The last one is the one that seems to be most successful: objective and task. And this is when you determine the task necessary and the cost that it's going to take, and that helps you determine your budget. And it's research shows that hospitals that use this method have a much higher performance rate, works much better. Okay, then you have to develop the message that you're trying to send out. The rational one is, you know, that you talk about the attributes you think are important to the consumer that you're trying to reach. You know, you talk about what is important to them, and in that way you're rationalizing to them why they should use your product or your service, and that works pretty well. Then you have the emotional one, and this one you have to be really careful with, because sometimes it works and sometimes it has the opposite effect. For instance, if you use the fear tactic in healthcare and you show somebody that doesn't get, you know, any mammogram, and then you show them dying of cancer or whatever it happens to be, then that it envelops a fear on them that they would, that they don't want to know. They don't go see their primary doctor because they're afraid of what they'll find out. And humor is the same kind of thing. You know, some people really, really like the funny stuff. I saw one just before I had the TV on before the class, and I've seen it before, but it kind of tickled me because I thought I'm going to talk about this today. But it was for one of the insurance companies, Liberty Mutual or something, and this guy was riding I think it was like one of those unicycles, and he lost his balance and ran straight into a fence and off into the water, wherever it happens to be. And, you know, it talks about accidents happen. And I thought it was funny, but then that's my personality. Some people take it real personal. They don't think healthcare is to be funny at all. So that would affect those people in that manner. They would not think it was funny. They would think it was ridiculous, and you know, may not even use your product for that reason. And then the last one is the moral or social, where you know, where you're trying to attack someone's moral values or someone's social values. You want to appeal to that. I can tell you one example of that is if you watch late night TV, if you're a night owl like me, every single night they talk about these animals that are being mistreated and abused, and they show these horrible you know, pictures, and oh, it just upsets me so much I changed the channel. Now, I used to give money years ago to that U.S. United States or American Humane Society. It's an offshoot of the regular one, which I didn't realize. But I used to give them money, but they were always sending me these pictures that were horrible, thinking that I would give them more money. So I just couldn't take it anymore, and I sent them a check, pretty substantial check, and I tore it in half. And I said, do not send me any more pictures. I will not support you anymore. The next week I got another picture, so I never gave them any more money. So they don't even look at, you know, they don't read it there. It's all like a machine. How much of it actually goes to what you're paying for, and how much goes to administration? Because they're not listening to what people are saying. But anyway, going on a moral or social level can backfire on you. And then there's pre-testing, which what this does is you look at ways to find out if the ad is working. With portfolio tests, and I don't know if any of you remember from your statistics, but they have alternative copies that are similar but not the same, and they test them to see how they work. They test these ads to see how they work, and the people will be asked to review samples and then judge them on a series of different dimensions. And those dimensions might be, was it interesting to you? Did it keep your attention? Did you like it? Did it inform you? You know, and then the focus group will respond to these questions, and you'll figure out whether this ad is going to work or not according to your focus group. Jury tests are very similar, but instead of jury tests, the people that they bring in are a panel of potential consumers. So, but you still get the same information. You get a series of the advertising and advertisements and ask them to judge them. And then you have theater tests. I haven't seen a lot of this lately, but used to you'd be walking down the mall in the mornings and they say, would you step in and watch this short advertisement and then give your opinion on it? And if you do, we'll give you tickets to the movie this afternoon or whatever it happens to be. So this thing gives you immediate feedback. You know, they go in, they watch it, they come out, they fill out a little, sometimes they have little like pieces, a little electronic piece of equipment that they can say yay or nay and answer questions on it afterwards. Or sometimes they fill out a short form or whatever it happens to be. But you know immediately what they thought of the ad. You know, and then the final one is digitally, you'll look at two versions of the same ad on a website or on some sort of social media, and then they'll be judged on which one is better of the same ad. Okay, this is real basic stuff as far as specifying the type of communication. The format, you know, do you want to print it? Do you want it in a magazine, a newspaper, a flyer? You know, do you want to broadcast on the radio, on the TV? Do you want it to be direct mail? In today's world, it's more email. They had done a lot of studies and used to that you would get these surveys in the mail, like snail mail. And what they figured out was that people are more likely to answer the survey if you give them money. Now, I remember when they would put a brand new shiny copper penny. Now, we think about that now, we think, who would even care? You just take the penny off maybe and throw the rest away. But before, many years ago, people felt the need, you know, if they were being paid for something, they felt like they needed to do it. It was kind of a work ethic thing. Now I see dollar bills stuck in them, and still probably people don't do it. So email blasts seem to be where people are going to. Outdoor, billboards, posters, whatever it happens to be. But what you have to look at is the reach. And what the reach is, how many people are seeing it that aren't duplicated? How many people are actually different? Individual people are actually seeing your advertisement. And the frequency is the number of times that same person sees your advertisement, under the theory that the more you see it, the more it'll stick in your brain. And then waste, that's just what it says. It's people that look at it and are not part of your target group and don't care, so if it's more people looking at it that don't care, then you got to reevaluate. And the vehicle is just a fancy way of saying, how are we going to do it? If you're going to advertise a new medical, let's say a new prescription type of medicine, then where do you want to put it? Well, maybe you want to put it in the American Medical Association journal, because then you would zero in on the target group that you really want, as opposed to sticking it in Cosmopolitan, where you may get a few people, but you wouldn't get as many as you would if you're aiming for medical professionals. And then how are you going to do it? How are you going to schedule it? If it's seasonal, then you would just highly advertise. For instance, here in California, it doesn't matter so much, but in Texas, where we actually have a winter, you probably would not see suntan lotion advertised at Christmas, because it's seasonal. People start using it maybe maybe start advertising in April, maybe March, on through the summer. Or cold medicine that is really more prevalent in the winter. So, you have to think about when would be a good time to advertise whatever I'm trying to advertise. And then if you're doing it steady, that means that you use the same level of advertisement over a period of time. This is something that people use all the time, let's say, and you just advertise it all the time, periodically. And then flighting is when you do a heavy amount for short periods of time and hope that it'll carry over. There's when they have festivals and stuff, and you're listening to the radio station and they talk about it like between every song, it's very, but then as it gets closer, they ramp it up, and then of course it just stops. So, when do you concentrate on? How far out do you do it? How often do you do it? All right, and then when you're looking at the cost per mil, what that is cost per mil, but it actually means cost per thousand. How much is it going to cost you? Television, it's much cheaper to advertise at 2 o'clock in the morning during a show that is not watched by that many people than it is to advertise during the Super Bowl, where it's like millions of dollars for 15 seconds. So the other thing you need to think about that you'll probably see again is inbound marketing is when you're trying to drive individuals to your website. You want to tell them about it, and you want them to come look at your website. Advertising is outbound. It's one way. You're telling people about what you have, and they're really not responding back to you. Okay, let's see. 1 second here. Got my papers mixed up here. Okay, so budget methods can be fiscally sound. Percentage of sales can be fiscally sound but flawed in relationship between advertising and sales, which we talked a while ago. Competitive prevents being out impressioned by other people in the marketplace, and all you can afford means spending too little or too much on promotion. So finally, which is what I was talking about a while ago, was the most appropriate way is the marketer's dream budget, and that's that you tell the people that are holding the money bags what you want and how much it's going to cost, and then you get the money for it. And then these are the different types of media. As you all know, television, radio, podcasting now, newspapers, magazines, outdoor, indoor, direct marketing, digital advertising, and streaming. So these are all the different types of media, and there may be others out there that they don't talk about, but these are all your options on how you could advertise. And the final thing I want to say in this chapter is that there are still advertising agencies. I don't know if any of you ever watched Bewitched, you know, which was like in the 60s, and Darren worked for an advertising agency. In those years, people had to go to advertising agencies to get a good product. In today's world, it's so easy to do it ourselves on YouTube, on, you know, Twitter, on, you know, Facebook, on all these different ways that advertising agencies are more boutique-y now. You know, they're really for people, for large companies that have a lot of extra money that they can afford to pay for these advertising agencies instead of doing it yourself. Okay. Do you have any questions on this? Are we good? All right, I have a little, this works better, I think, sometimes with in person, but I think I'm gonna see if it'll work on this. You know, how we see, a big part of advertising is that you need to figure out how your consumer sees what you're saying and how they hear what you're saying. Because you may be trying to say one thing and the consumer is thinking something completely different than what you thought. So I have a little short PowerPoint with a couple of optical illusions that I want to just show you, just showing you how different people see different things. And the same people in this class will see some of these pictures totally different. So let me see if I can, if it's out here for me to share it, I'm hoping. Let's see. No, of course it's not here. Give me 1 second. Let's see. I gotta pull it back up. I don't know how it got turned off. All right. I'm sure it's technology causing me issues as usual. Where'd you go? All right. Okay, well, it was here a few minutes ago. Now it seems to have done a getaway. Okay, I don't know how it got there, but hopefully it will show up now when I go to share it. Hope for the best. All right, share. Yep, there we go. Okay. Okay. Now, as you look at this, look at that red spot on her nose for 30 seconds, and then look anywhere on the wall and blink your eyes as fast as you can. I'm hoping this works with, okay. Now, it's been about 30 seconds, and what do you see, anybody, when you look at the blank wall? Did it work?
I saw her image, but with color.
Okay, weird, huh? So anybody else see anything different? Okay, maybe we got some people asleep here. Okay, now shake your head and look at this and tell me what you see. Anybody?
There's a man behind the...
Right, behind the bars. So some people can see that and some people can't. It depends on your perspective. This one, I just stare at this one for a minute. And a lot of people lose interest, but just keep staring at it for just a minute. That was just kind of something to wake you up. Now then, I want to know how many people see a man with a beard. Just tell me, I don't know, I guess I can't see your show of hands, but holler out. How many people see a man with a beard? Or who sees a man with a beard? Anybody? Okay, what
Me
do
and
you?
Daisy.
I'm sorry?
Me and Daisy see the man with the beard.
Okay, super. All right, who sees something else?
You
Anybody?
see like a girl facing a man.
Right, exactly, with his arms around her. So now I'm going to come out of this for a minute, and I want to see a show of hands. How many of you saw the man with the beard first? Show of hands. Okay. How many of you saw the girl facing first? Okay. I should have done a poll on this. All right. So this is just showing you how different people, it was about half and half, looks like, how different people see, observe different things. And so it's the same thing with ads. You know, different people are going to view it differently than what you think they are. There's a couple more here. Let's see if I can. I don't know if it's going to work for me. Okay, again, I'm going to pull out of here. And how many of you saw a man looking to the left or right? And how many of you just saw just half a face? Okay, I think y'all get my point. I have a whole, there's one more I'd like to show you, if I can find it quickly. Let's see. And the point of this is to just show y'all how people view things differently. Okay, take a good look at this one. And kind of lean back from the computer. All right, and you may have to even step back from the computer also. Okay. Now, how many of you saw Albert Einstein? How many saw Marilyn Monroe? Okay. All right. So that picture is one of the most unusual one that's been used a lot as far as different perspectives. So that's really what I wanted to show y'all today and talk to y'all about advertising. I have one other thing. I couldn't find this one thing I had about bad practices in advertising. I'm not sure. I don't know why I couldn't put my hands on it, but it was evading me last night. Let's see if I can find this. Okay. I'm going to send y'all an article about what brands should and shouldn't do on social media, but right now I'm going to share with you where you at? I'm going to share with you the graph so you'll kind of get an idea. Okay, this is what brands should and shouldn't do on social media, and this is a study that was done. And as you look at this, like using video clips, 83% of the people thought that was cool. 17% found it annoying. So if you use video clips, you know, you're doing okay. But something down here, if you go all the way down to the bottom, and some companies actually do this, making fun of customers, only 12% thought that was cool. So obviously this is not a good thing to do. Talking politics, not a good thing to do. Using slang, again, only 31% of people thought it was cool. Don't want to make fun of competitors. So as you look at this, it talks about what you should and shouldn't do. And, you know, depending on the personality of the person who is, you know, creating these ads, some things may seem really cool to them, but it comes across way different than what you were expecting. Okay, you know what, let me see if I've got this. I have one other thing that to kind of bring home the difference between, and this is about a 5-minute video, to bring home the difference between advertising and public relations. So let me put this on and just kind of end the class that way. Give me 1 second.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Public Relations 101. In this video, what we're going to discuss is the difference between advertising, marketing, and public relations. I've walked into many client meetings, and depending on who the client is, I've been called all three. I've been called a member of their marketing team, a member of their advertising team, a member of their public relations team. But what exactly am I? The truth is, I am a public relations practitioner. And while the three fields, advertising, marketing, and public relations, are all complementary, they all support one another in some way, shape, or form, and they're all part of the family of communications, there are differences, and these differences are very important to understand, because if you're going to build a house, you don't just use one tool, you use many tools, and it's very important to know which tool does what. So let's start off with some of the main differences between public relations, marketing, and advertising. The first one, and one of the most important ones, is that marketing and advertising, in more cases than not, are one way. You are communicating your message to the public through mediums that are shared, maybe by even public relations down the road, but this is one-way messaging. Public relations is not one-way messaging. It allows for dialogue, it allows for engagement, it allows for thought leadership and feedback, and that is one of the main differences, that it is two-way communication. The second main difference is that the proof is in the pudding. With advertising and marketing, the return is often sales. It's not always sales, it's sometimes reputation building, but more often than not, you advertise or you market a product to really sell it. So by the end of your campaign, you can actually see a return on investment, your return on investment on advertising. Public relations is a little bit different because the agenda is not necessarily to sell something, although it could be that, but the agenda is also to build a reputation. It's more about building a rapport with your audiences, with the public, whoever your audiences might be. The third main difference is payments. So with public relations, you often are paying the public relations practitioners for their service of corporate reputation building. However, you're not really paying for the deliverables that in and of themselves. So for example, if a PR practitioner hooks you up with a TV interview or hooks you up with a press release that goes out to the newspapers, that goes out to digital portals, that actual press release is not what is being paid for. The service of writing it and sending it has been paid for, but not actually putting it out in the media. So there's a good chance that the media does not pick it up. However, with advertising and marketing, you're paying for that ad space. You're paying to be there in those portals, on those newspapers, on those digital websites, on social media advertising. You're paying for that. So you are assured that you will be carried. With public relations, it's not so much so. So in public relations, what really matters, if you're not paying for it, is the quality of your story. So an advertising practitioner and a public relations practitioner can both use televisions, but the way in which we use televisions are sometimes very, very, very different. Let me give you an example. So for example, advertising practitioners will create a TV corporate ad video. It'll be specialized for television, so it'll run the right amount of length. It'll include actors. They'll create a nice little TV ad, TVC as it's called, a TV commercial, and then they'll buy ad space. In return for the money that they pay, they are guaranteed that broadcast time. The way it works for public relations is a little bit different. What we would do if we had a client who wanted to be on television, or if we recommended that they be on television to promote their views or to promote their thought leadership concepts, then what we would do is we would phone in. So we would phone in, for example, Fox News, or we would phone in CNN, or we would phone in RT or Al Jazeera. And what we would say is, look, our client has this terrific idea about, for example, public relations. The way he views or she views public relations is going to change the world the way we know it. Would you be interested in coming down or having our client come over to you and interview? If they say yes, then the conversation moves on to the next step. There's no money involved. There's no buying ad space. The only buying that happens is them buying our idea. And for them to buy our idea, it better be solid. Thank you for watching. Folks, I post new content regularly, so please remember.
Okay. All right. So I have one last question to ask y'all. This is just because I was looking to see who's not here today. And I have someone that came in on a phone number. 424. Who is that? Their name's not on it. 424 323. Maya. Okay. Got it. Super. All right. Do I have any questions from today? Any comments? Anything, y'all? I'll send y'all the social media article just for your information. I'll also send the PowerPoint so you can look at the rest of it. Do I have any other comments or questions? Or remember that you need to be working on your PowerPoints. Because those are coming up due pretty soon. And, probably y'all need, let me see, no, we'll do it next time to say when y'all want to go. Okay, so any questions? Are we doing good? Okay, all right, then I hope y'all have a great week. We do not meet on Thursday, so use this time to work on all your assignments and on your PowerPoints. And if you need me, I'm always available to you. Have a great week.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Michaela, you okay? Dan, you okay?
Yes. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, bye-bye.